There is a responsibility for kids to get some decent nutrition, but whose responsibility is it to make sure that that happens in the context of education? And what help can be provided to get children and us eating a better diet? Ticker Ed starts right now. Hello and welcome back to Ticker Ed, where we will be unpacking and examining the way we teach and learn from primary education through to university and beyond. Ticker Ed is backed by Enquiry Tracker, who are the all-in-one solution for schools to easily manage their future families. And you can, of course, learn more over at enquirytracker.net. And remember, folks, whilst Enquiry Tracker is the presenting sponsor of today's program, all the opinions and statements expressed in the following segment are our own. And joining me now is my regular co-host and founder of Enquiry Tracker, Greg Campitelli. Welcome back to the program.
Always great to be here, Mike.
Right back at you. Now, what are we discussing on today's program?
Well, one that we should all be pretty conscious of, nutrition and diet and good health.
Fantastic. Now, I wanted to start by talking a little bit about, you brought this to my attention, the milk saga, right?
The milk generation.
The generation.
Well, Mike, let me tell you a story.
Please.
I'm old enough to wind back the clock to a time where milk used to get delivered in crates to schools in the morning. It was all about calcium.
Of course.
And you know, sometimes folks, and you'll remember this, I'm sure many of us, the milks would have little bottles. They'd get delivered, rain, hail or shine. And in summer, when it was 30 plus degrees or 100 degrees Fahrenheit, the milk would get a bit hard to taste. But, you know, and of course we had the cafeterias at those times and they'd serve a huge variety of menus. There was three things. There was pies, pasties and donuts.
Love it.
And and not much else. But in all seriousness, it's today I know our special guest is going to focus on nutrition and diet, but I want to just touch on something a bit more serious, obesity.
Yeah. Okay, so with growing rates worldwide in obesity, this is something we see all the time in the media, and you know, it sort of fluctuates throughout stories over the years, but it's ongoing.
It's huge. It's
a very current issue. What is obesity, I suppose, exactly? You can say, oh, somebody's obese, but what does it look like on a scale when it comes to, you know, unhealthy children or unhealthy adults?
So in terms of the WHO, they define obesity as an abnormal or excessive fat accumulation that may impair health. But the stats tell us a few alarming things. The global obesity rates have tripled since the 1970s. Almost 40 million children, this is alarming, under the age of 5 are obese. Under the age of 5.
That's young.
That's young. And almost half of those kids are in Asia. So the alarming thing here is that we're looking at potentially the first generation in history where children could die before their parents due to a completely preventable condition. And once this was considered the domain of the high income country, you know, United States, Australia, Germany. Yeah. But what we're now seeing is obesity pushing into the middle income countries and the low income countries. So for example, places like Japan, which you and I would always think really healthy, sushi, sashimi, fish, and they are. Diet, But what we're seeing is these obesity rates start to penetrate countries which had good health eating traditions like that country too.
Isn't that fascinating? So let's talk about that a bit more. And the fast food industry is a worldwide economic monster. It's estimated worth of $798 billion per year. Now that's incredible. But fast food consumption simply has to be connected to this in some way. It's often, you know, you see the images of McDonald's on the screen when they're presenting these stories about kids, you know, going after school, etc. What's at play here?
Well, you're right. The stats tell two stories. Firstly, the fast food industry is a global monolith. It's huge. There's been a massive increase in the consumption of fast food in our diets, which are really high in fats and sugars and salts, and that's a big problem here. And secondly, at the same time, we've seen this decrease in physical activity. We are more sedentary. And this is due to perhaps two things. One, the nature of work has become more sedentary. We're all in office jobs. We're all at desks. We're doing this on the keyboards, aren't we?
It's just tapping away.
And from a student and a child's perspective, you know, once upon a time, kids were outdoor all day, playing in the yard, running around doing sport, coming home at night for dinner. That's not the case anymore. Things have changed. They're on their screens much more, and so they are more sedentary as well. And the food they can get is quicker. Uber Eats. Just order it, and they can order it at school.
Oh. Wait, no, can they?
Yeah, they can order. This is a global phenomenon, Mike. We're seeing, you know, people can get their food faster and quicker than ever before, and not all of it is altogether healthy.
Incredible. Okay, so getting back to the school lunch that we sort of talked about, the canteens and such, and the milk delivery. Did your mum always send you off with lunch? Because this is another one that pops in, is whether or not kids are being sent to school with lunch. And is this something that parents should do, or should they rely on the schools and what they're offering?
This is a really huge issue.
Yeah.
And so, we got packed off with the classic lunch. Off you go. There it is. That's what you're going to have for school today. But incredibly, not all kids are in that situation. And what we're finding is, alarmingly, an enormous amount of children are going to school without breakfast. And we know that there's a really important link between nutrition and learning, which our special guest will unpack for us a bit today. But it improves, poor diet affects memory, affects concentration, affects your ability to make cognitive decisions. So it's massive. And I reckon that's a perfect opportunity to bring in our guest.
Perfect time to bring in our guest. So we've got Lucinda Hancock, the Chief Executive Officer of the Division of Nutrition Australia, an organisation that aims to provide health and well-being to all Australians. So let's bring in Lucinda now. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, so first up, tell us a little bit about Nutrition Australia and about nutrition in general and what it looks like these days for those of us who might have forgotten. I definitely know that maybe I sometimes forget.
Sure. Nutrition Australia is Australia's leading nutrition non-profit organisation. We provide information, education and consultation advisory services to help Australians achieve optimal health through good nutrition. We were originally established more than 40 years ago to help improve the health of Australians. However, if you haven't heard of Nutrition Australia, I'm sure you're familiar with our healthy eating pyramid, which displays the foods that we should eat from most to least. And about nutrition, well, nutrition is a critical part of health and development, and better nutrition is related to improved infant, child, maternal health, stronger immune systems, lower risk of diabetes and cardiovascular disease, and healthy children learn better. Unfortunately, the current state of play is that we're eating too much processed food, which is high in fat, sugar and salt, and not enough the good stuff, such as fruit and veg and whole grains and breads and cereals. Unfortunately, Australia's vegetable consumption is well below the recommended 5 serves per day, and in fact, we're now eating 13 kilograms less vegetables per person than we did in 2001. So just over half of Australian adults and 2/3 of children have adequate fruit intake, but what's more concerning is the fact that just 7% of Australian adults and 5% of children meet the recommended guidelines for daily vegetable intake.
Some concerning statistics there for sure.
So tell us, Lucinda, why is nutrition such an important part of learning, and what is the impact on learning when kids aren't getting that nutritious food?
Yeah, you've touched on it earlier on, but the good nutrition through eating healthy foods can help us feel happy, energetic, learn better at school, while eating junk food can make us feel cranky and sad only shortly after we eat. And this is really because there's a lot of fantastic bacteria in our guts, and these bugs only really help us think and feel better when we're eating really good, healthy food. And in return, what these bugs do is they signal to our brain to help us think and feel better. Yeah. And so from eating from the 5 food groups is the best way to make sure these bugs are happy, and in turn we feel happy too.
I definitely need a refresher course on that pyramid, but let's talk about the responsibility of schools and how schools are changing this space. I remember that when my canteen pulled Coca-Cola and such off the shelves, there was a bit of an outcry, but in the long run, that's a better move, right?
Oh, absolutely. Schools have a huge responsibility. Number one, obviously, is to provide learning opportunities to meet the needs of the students. So it's vital that students are fueled with nutritious food to help them to learn. So promoting healthy eating in schools, we know that it improves students' concentration, their academic performance, and along with their mood, mental health and overall health and well-being. So it really is important that nutrition features in the national curriculum, of which it does, and each state and territory has its own healthy canteen guideline. However, the best way for schools to help children and adolescents is to develop healthy eating habits to ensure the whole school environment supports healthy eating. So what this means is promoting healthy eating through a whole of school approach. Through a healthy, profitable canteen, creating links to promote healthy eating in the classroom, and embedding nutrition in policies and engaging with staff, students and families.
Yeah.
So you've unpacked some of those programs for us, Lucinda. So what clear guidelines perhaps could staff, families, students themselves, get stuck and help them improve their nutrition and diet? And should we bring back the milk?
Most primary schools actually have sort of fruit and veg snack time during class already embedded, and also regular water breaks. There's programs like sort of crunch and sip. Some schools also have breakfast programs. However, again, the school needs to take a whole of school approach, not just having sort of one small program as part of it. It needs to be a much broader approach to healthy eating. And the programs which need to be implemented need to involve the school community. They need to develop a policy. This is really key. And for example, there are a lot of other great programs, but really that whole school program, what you're looking for in Victoria, we actually have access to free information, recipes, menu planning resources, policy templates and online training. And this is through a government-funded program called the Health Eating Advisory Service. And so even if you're not in Victoria, you can still access all of the resources. And I think this is something that we should really be looking to tap into.
Yeah, definitely glad to be having the discussion again and a refresher course, if you will. Lucinda, thank you so much for joining us on the program today and giving us a bit of insight.
My pleasure.
Easy done. Greg, it's wonderful to discuss this sort of thing, and even reflecting on my own experience at school and reflecting on my own experience at the moment. Those statistics are a bit shocking, and I feel like I should be eating more broccoli.
Yeah, we should be. And I think a lot of parents are doing some great stuff. A lot of students are doing good things, and a lot of schools are doing great things. And as Lucinda said, there's a lot there. At Enquiry Tracker, we're all about managing and growing enrolments for schools, but gosh, we want them to be healthy, well, and nutritious, and coming to school with a healthy breakfast so they can really shine in their learning.
It is a united front, as Lucinda said. It needs to be a united front. But Greg, thank you so much for joining me.
Another great program.
Another great program. Guys, what a great show for today, and of course presented by the team at Enquiry Tracker. And if you'd like to learn more about how your school can use this amazing admissions software, please head over to their website, enquirytracker.net. I'm Mike Loader, and I'm going to go get myself some broccoli for lunch. Have a salad. I'll see you soon.